Hi guys, Bran here, and welcome to my thoughts on the PTB. Infamously, I made a video earlier this week talking about the dev update, and I called it a disaster because I believed a lot of the things that were coming through were going to be very, very unhealthy for the game, despite the things that I did enjoy about it. And I want to, revisit those thoughts now that I've actually gotten my hands on the PTB and played it for about 4 hours, and I have some takeaways, both positive and negative, and we will get into those. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So first off, the map changes to Blood Lodge and Gas Heaven are pretty cool because now the main buildings on both those maps are centralized, which means they feel a little bit more fun to play. Just because it's not like, you're up against a wall if you want to play a main building, both Killer and Survivor, for that matter. Now, there's some stronger combinations on Survivor for that. Like one of the doors on Gas Heaven's gas station is actually just like fully open, which is interesting, which creates some could create some very strong combinations. But also, depending on the layout, it could also create very weak combinations and kind of screw over the survivors as well. So it just kind of depends on the RNG of the spawn. I think I played them. I used an auto haven key most of the day that I played, and I enjoyed them for the most part. I had a really good time on them. I think that they are improved at night. It was nice not having to go around the giant car walls, especially on Gas 7, or specifically on Gas 7 rather. I enjoy not having to go around the giant car walls just to pressure other sides of the map. Felt way more open. Blood Lodge actually feels really cozy for some reason, having the house in the middle instead of like near the edge of the map. I feel like having it near the edge of the map made more sense when the map was like a football field and it was like super huge. But the map is like, a reasonable size. It makes more sense for for it to be a little bit more centralized. So yeah, the map reworks are nice. Obviously, as well, the accessibility stuff that came through with the visible heartbeat, great, awesome. The blood web changes, while they're not really like the blood web changes that came out, don't really affect PC that much. For console, this will be a great change because on PC we can kind of do the thing that the autofill does just with our mouse. So like it's not that big of a deal, which is why you see people complaining on Twitter about it. Is because people that play on PC, it's literally the same speed. But for you play on console, it is a measurable improvement. So that is a good console update coming. So that's good. Well, okay, there's one more thing. They did try to tackle Pinhead standing on the box, that annoying AFK strat. Now the box teleports if you stand over it for more than 5 seconds. So they did tackle that very obnoxious playstyle that has been taken out. So yeah, those are mainly the positives. But as you know, we have to get into the negatives. And while I do still appreciate the things that are coming that are positive, I do think that this still errs mostly on the side of negative. I think the damage it will do to the game is kind of like, I don't know. Like, I think the damage it does to the game, we'll have to see. I feel like a lot of the stuff that's coming in this is going to make the game a lot less fun to play, especially for like solo queue Survivor and certain killers. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So, you know what I'm going to say. You know what's coming. The hillbilly stuff. So, in the dev update, I found the changes to be confusing because they nerfed or buffed rather the overheat mechanic when it came to actually, using your chainsaw freely. So if you're doing it around a loop or something, or at the hook, smile, your overheat does not build as much. So now you're a more efficient camper, but you can theoretically use your chainsaw more in chase with an asterisk that we will cover in a second. But when you chainsaw sprint around the map, your overheat builds more. So theoretically, that means that stuff like, Drift Billy and players that aren't that don't main Billy, who just play Billy casually and use his chainsaw mostly as a movement ability, are being punished the most. So that's cool. So they don't want you going around the map with this chainsaw. They don't want you to actually use your chainsaw to chase either, because they nerfed both the engravings. Now, initially I thought, this was still a bad idea. I still thought that this would be a very bad thing that would do a lot of damage to Billy, if not outright kill the character. Now, you would be, not weird to think that, oh, well, hey, Bran, at least they lowered the overheat for actually using your chainsaw and chase, so therefore his chase should be better, right? Well, no, because they're nerfing both engravings, and not only did they nerf engravings just in terms of the speed, but they actually nerfed it 3 times over, and that's ridiculous. So what they did is not only did they nerf the chainsaw speed itself by 5% for both engravings, but they also raised the charge time and took away some of the built-in overheat cooldown. Because if you didn't know, the engravings does come with a anti-overheat component to it, like a percentile that it doesn't build as much. So now that is not as good. And they also increased charge time. So they nerfed these add-ons not once, but 3 times. They gave them 3 separate nerfs. So they don't want you to chase with this power, because if you're chasing, you're probably using at least one engraving, but those have been nerfed into the dirt. But you shouldn't be sprinting around the map, because then you'll overheat too easily. So basically the only thing he's good at is back revving and camping hooks now. Now, I will say when I used both engravings, I was still able to do a lot of the things I was previously able to do. But when I switched off to like one Doom engraving or one Death engraving, it was like suddenly I was like really realizing how many hits I was missing. Like this was a measurable nerf. And at least when you're using doubles, you can still get a lot of your fun hits, your fun curves. But one alone, I was really feeling just how weak this character is now. They unless you're a master of this character and have been already, there's no reason for any new player to try Hillbilly. I'm going to say that. I'm going to say that in my whole chest right now. Unless you are a veteran Billy player, there is no reason any longer to touch this character. That's what these nerfs did. Like, literally, that's it. Unless you thoroughly love this character and have already spent the time learning him, there's no reason to learn him. He has one of the highest skill caps in the game, and he's really bad, and he keeps receiving really awful nerfs that are very unfair to him. There's no reason to play this character. And this is like, and this is since the dev update. A lot of you guys told me that, well, you know, it's just the dev update. They probably won't let that go live to the PTB. Well, here it is. And it's 3 times the nerf. 3 times the nerf. So, yeah, it went live on the PTB. I don't know why you said that. It very clearly still happened. And it's very bad. So, yeah, I hope that the copium is real and it's not just copium and that they don't go through this live, but they seem to be sticking with it. And like I said, in that case, there's not really a reason to play the character. So, yeah, unless you've already played him, there's no reason. All of the miscellaneous add-on updates, like Freddy's blocks and Oni's sash, like we'll take those, but like realistically, they don't really change much. So I'm not really gonna go to that section at all. Pain res is a big one. Pain res is a big one. A lot of people will read about. I was still able to get value out of my M1 killer build. I used it on multiple characters. I was still able to win the match using pain res. In that M1 killer build. So the perk isn't entirely dead, but it is definitely significantly weaker. There was definitely plenty of times I had players that were playing really like multiple weak links, like at least 2 people that were just really bad in chase. But instead of chasing them, I was supposed to go across the map, try to find somebody I've never seen, and try to have a really long chase with them because they're the better chaser, and then try to get them on hook like that. I felt that. And also there were matches where, you know, I ate through all 4 tokens and it was just a dead perk slot. Now, I was already winning those matches. Like, those matches ended at 4 or 3 gens. So, like, I had done my damage, right? But I can't imagine what it'd be like to have a dead perk slot and then suddenly, like, I would need an extra pain res and just don't have them, right? I still think that the main thing we should have done with the Scourge Trick pain res was make the Scourge Tricks themselves actually rotate. I don't know why they just put them on a limit, and the limit is not even just uses, it's individual people. Like, you have to get fresh hooks. I don't know. It feels like they just like randomly decided to go, okay, well, there's not enough anti-tunnel incentive in the game, which I agree with. And they just said, well, let's just take that issue out on pain res, even though pain res is an unrelated issue, which is just, I don't know. I don't get it. Boon and Dead Hard are dead. Boon Circle Healing and Dead Hard are dead. I don't know. Like, they made these perks like basically useless. Like, and that's a good thing for killers, of course, because, you know, they were some of the strongest perks in the game. But also at the same time, these perks are quite literally useless now. They don't really do too much. So, like, they just kind of took them from a place that was like winning matches to not really going to be worth bringing. And I don't know how I feel about just like rendering these perks pretty much just not viable anymore. Like, I feel like with Dead Hard specifically, getting an unhook charges your Dead Hard. But if you miss your Dead Hard, that's it. Like, you used your use. So you have to go get another unhook save just to have it recharge. Like, you didn't even get value out of it the first time. Like, you didn't even get a value of it, period. Which is just, it's just weird that these perks are just now, like, too annoying to use. That they're not even worth it anymore. I don't want perks to just be not worth bringing. But I don't want them to be OP either. Like, there's got to be a nice middle ground here somewhere, and they didn't find it with these perks, so that's disappointing. Overzealous, I mean, thankfully, it's not like... Thankfully, it didn't seem to be winning a ton of matches. A lot of people brought Overzealous, but, like, it wasn't really actually, like... I don't know. It wasn't really actually, like, doing too much, which I'm thankful for. I'm thankful it's not... I'm thankful it's not, like, winning matches, but, like, I can definitely see squads, you know, bringing this with their Gen Rush builds to try and make the match more obnoxious. So, luckily I didn't get too much of that in the PTB, but yeah. Call O'Brien Overcharge, obviously, you know, the one I get a lot of flack for because I don't like these perks, because I don't think drag kicking, something that's inherently unskillful and takes 0 brain power, should be, you know, so heavily rewarded. We had a conflict about this on stream because I used Overcharge Colubrine and I still was able to hold 3 gens and win all my matches. We had people in chat saying that it was that these perks are basically nerfed into the ground, they're not worth using anymore, and they're bad now. I was even able to use Colubrine by itself, and I won a match at like, I had 2 or 3 gens left. I know a lot of this has to do with like Otts put out numbers saying that, you know, you only save 4 seconds of gen regression on Colubrine now, but like, to my experience, like, I was still winning matches with Cobb by itself, Cobb Overcharge. I feel like definitely Cobb is definitely more in a place now where it's more of a companion perk, which I don't think necessarily is a bad thing, because there's plenty of good companion perks in the game, like Enduring Spirit Fury or Stabiffle Game of Foot, like Nemesis Play With Your Food. There's plenty of perks in the game that work like that, like they're companion perks to another perk. Nemesis Rancor, another good one. You know, like, there's plenty of like companion perks that work well together. Even Brutal Enduring, you could even argue, right? There's plenty of perks that do work, but do more work in tandem with someone else, right? Enduring, you will always be able to get value out of, right? Even if you don't run it with Spirit Fury. Spirit Fury, kind of have to run it on specific characters like Nemesis, but you can run it by itself as well. But obviously, they work better together. So I feel like Colubrine is right now. Is that like, yeah, you can run it by itself, and it will help you delete gens. It will. I did do it a lot during the PTB, but if you really want to still retain the old meta, you really got to run it with like Overcharge Interruption still, so you can get the most value out of it. And like I said, I literally did. I ran like Knight, I ran Dole Merchant, and I did the 3 gen thing with these 2 perks, and I was still able to do it just fine. So they're not dead. A lot of people are saying they're just outright dead, and honestly, I feel like a lot of that comes from they're used to these perks carrying them to victory because they've been so aggressively good for so little input. So the fact that they're not hard carrying the game anymore means they're ergo bad, and I think that's just kind of like a very small brain way to look at the situation, is like, hey, it's not hard carrying my match anymore, so therefore it's not worth running. It's like, no. It's just kind of like the way you utilize this is a little bit more thought intensive and not just like, you know, I just slap this on and it just gives me results. No, you have to, yeah, there has to be more of you involved in that situation. And now, obviously, while I've been excited for a long time for them to look at medkits, because obviously medkits are, you know, kind of like the dark horse, the secret winner of so many Dead by Daylight games from Survivor's perspective. Medkits were just incredibly strong and needed to be looked at. Now being changed to altruistic healing bonus and no bonus to your own healing, even though you still have the ability to heal yourself. Last time I covered this in the dev update, I alluded that like maybe you can't heal yourself, and I didn't mean to phrase it that way. You definitely still can't heal yourself with a medkit, but you don't get any special speed boosts specifically reserved for altruism. That's an alright change. That's an alright change. Would it be the one I'd make? I don't know. I never really thought about changes I would make to medkits, but you know, medkits were strong, and that's a good way to adjust them for now. But the base heal interaction from 16 to 24 seconds is bad. It's just bad. It's turning... The game is already enough of an M1 simulator because you're sitting on a gen for 90 seconds just doing nothing and occasionally hitting a skill check. It's the same thing with healing. So now healing is just taking longer. So you're spending more time in the game just holding M1, doing nothing. And the big oopsie, the big elephant in the room that Behavior seemingly forgot about was that healing also counts for being on the ground and self-recovery on the ground, which is 50% more than the average healing speed. So it now has a base of 45 seconds on the ground while you're recovering to get to full recovery so somebody can pick you up. Now, for reference, you bleed out at 4 minutes. So you're almost there on the ground for 1/4 of your entire bleed out counter, waiting for something to come happen, waiting for somebody to come pick you up. So like, while this is a good buff for slugging, this is incredibly boring for Survivor to just sit there on the ground, just staring at the sky for 45 minutes, doing absolutely nothing. Medkit change, fine. Healing change, I don't think base kit healing needed to be touched. I said this in the dev update. I don't think I've ever at any point playing Killer going, wow, base kit healing is so OP. I don't think I've ever thought that ever. Even if I got annoyed at it, I just ran sloppy. That's another thing. They adjusted base kit healing across the board and did not look at mangled or hemorrhage literally at all. They did not adjust those accordingly. There were people that were trying to like self-care that had it up to like 4 to 6 minutes worth of time when they tried to self-care themselves. 4 to 6 minutes. Who wants to be holding M1 for that long? That's so boring. It's so boring. And I don't know how they overlooked that. So yeah, I would not follow through with the base kit healing, the general healing, and I would just leave the med kits stuff. Because that, it just pervasively affects too much stuff. It just does. Yeah, those are my thoughts and feelings on the PTB. I still think it's mostly a negative bag. I think like the healing changes, just outright just like stomping Billy into the dirt and stuff like that. I mean, like also on the Survivor side, like, what's there you be excited about? Overzealous gets slightly buffed, and then everything else for you is taken away. Like, people were asking me on the PTB, it's like, are you excited to play Survivor? And I'm like, no, I'm not. There's nothing here. There's nothing here. There's nothing here for the Survivor side at all. Basically, it's just stuff being taken away, and you know, a base mechanic of yours being made even more boring. Like, I'm not excited for that. Yeah, I think most of these changes, I think, for the most part, I'm still not excited for. I feel like if they decide to walk back some of this, like they walk back the Billy change, they walk back like the base kit healing change, I feel like it will be manageable. Because there's enough good here with like the map changes and stuff, and like, you know, some meta adjustments, like, you know, Circle and Dead Hard and then Colorblind Overcharge being like nerfed and not being replaced with anything like meaningful does suck, but at least, you know, the meta switching up, right? But like, I feel like the negatives that come out of this are potentially worse, especially with like why did Painterez get knocked? It's a slowdown you have to earn already. I get that if you can just camp and reuse that and just delete a gen, but that's why you just have the hooks rotate. Like, it's just, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. Or a way to just regain the 4 tokens somehow. Just a way to regain the 4 tokens or something. Like, it's just, I feel like most of the videos that I've seen as a reference to the PTB are right in their assessment that there's some good stuff in here, but the bad stuff's really bad. So, like, I don't know. It's a very mixed bag, and I'm very concerned for the bad things. So, yeah, that's how I feel. Hopefully they adjust some things before it goes live to make things a little bit better. I kind of don't have a lot of faith that they will, though. But yeah, that's how I feel about it. How did you guys feel when you played the PTB or watched somebody play the PTB today? Let me know what your feelings about that were down in the comments below. But that's going to be it for today's video, friends. Thank you so much for watching today. But I do upload daily, so I will see you tomorrow. But if I don't, you know, I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.